you would think like at this point in the process, you'd kind of know it all, but that was obviously a really narrow focused discussion on like just the sustainability aspects of the project. There were so many cool things that I had no idea.
Yeah.
Like new stretch energy code and things like that coming down
Yeah.
the pipe. You know, the architects and engineers love that, getting to talk about like reverse energy capture fans and, you know, geothermal well construction. And so
yep. Oh, that'll be great.
2 more folks who just
we need 2 more.
All right, so Kelly is here, Jen is here, and Alicia is here. And then once we have a quorum in, Jackie, I'll put the recording back on if you want to call them to order.
Yep.
So Connor, Andrea did not receive an invitation. Is she?
Oh, I'm sorry, our distribution list must be updated.
Oh, okay. No, that's fine. I asked her to jump on, but she may be in the waiting room or what.
Yeah, I can see her. I can see her name.
Yeah, I apologize for that.
That's okay.
Staff turnover here, and
no, I told her. I said that to her.
She was definitely not intentional. We apologize.
Okay, are we ready to get started?
Recording in progress.
Great. Good evening. Welcome to the Budget Subcommittee meeting of Wednesday, September 27th, 2023. This meeting will be conducted remotely over Zoom. Attendance by Budget Subcommittee members will be remote, and remote attendance shall count towards quorum. The meeting may be broadcast live and recorded on ECAT. I apologize for my dog making chewing noises in the background. Before we get started, I'd like to welcome our new members, Jen Starr from the School Committee and Kelly Lamb from Finance Committee. We're so happy to have you on board. Okay, so the first item on the agenda is the reorganization of the committee. Now, I've really enjoyed being chair of this committee, and I'd like to thank Jamie Stebbins for being an excellent vice chair, but it is time for some new leadership. So I would like to make a motion to nominate Jen Stacy to be chair of this committee. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you, Kelly. And I'm going to do a roll call vote. Cabral?
Yes.
Starr?
Yes.
Lamb?
Yes.
Stacy?
Yes.
Reed?
Yes.
And Wiseman is yes. So Jen, I'm turning it over to you.
Thank you. At this moment in time right here?
At this moment in time. So what you might want to do is ask for a nomination for a vice chair as your first.
Yes, then I'd like to ask for nomination for vice chair.
Can I nominate myself?
Yes, you can, Kelly.
All right, I nominate myself.
Great. So I'd like to make a motion. So do I have a second on that?
I'll second it, Wiseman.
Okay, we'll do roll call vote again. So Wiseman?
Yes.
Lamb?
Yes.
Starr?
Yes.
Cabral?
Yes.
Reed?
Yes.
Nightingale? Oh,
Wendy and Andrea don't need to vote.
perfect. Sorry. So I'm the last one.
Sorry.
So Stacy is a yes, and we are good. All right.
And just go through the agenda, and you're all set.
Right. So the next item on our agenda is the discussion of the special town meeting warrant for October 23rd, 2023.
Sure. So everyone on this call and their other committee lives has received and seen this warrant, but happy to report the select board finalized it last night. This is the special town meeting, one of 2 that we have this fall on Monday, October 23rd. This is devoted entirely to the municipal facilities replacement building project, as well as the pilot program, the senior property tax exemption program. So thank you to each of your respective committees who have reviewed this in the past couple of weeks. We got really great feedback and strong support from each of the committees we went to, which includes obviously the select board, but also finance committee, municipal building committee, capital planning committee, the school committee, and the green communities committee, which is great. And we appreciate that. So the warrant's final. The second article, which was reviewed by finance committee, select board voted to recommend last night. The board of assessors also reviewed and recommended it because they would have an important role with the administration of that tax exemption program. So again, that had really strong support. We appreciate that. If anyone has any kind of questions about the town meeting of the warrant, happy to answer them.
Any questions from anyone? I'll just make a comment that I noticed last night as we were discussing this in the select board, and I think it's really important to reiterate. One of the things that struck me as we looked at the finalized warrant was all of the groups that have reviewed the planning around this and ultimately the, for the article. But I think it's just a really important point for anybody who is listening out there that this has been a really long ongoing discussion. And it has been looked at by lots and lots of people, lots of committees with different lenses for understanding every angle imaginable. So I, just want to impress upon anybody watching how much time and care has been put into that, how many, person hours, looking thoughtfully over the details and poring over it. So that's just one thing I wanted to call out. Any other comments or questions? Okay, if there's nothing else, Connor, I think we can move on to the third item on the agenda, the special town meeting warrant for November 13th.
Sure, thank you, Jen. So we don't have a published warrant for this yet. The select board will have their first draft in about a week, but we have some of the standard draft articles I can just quickly touch on, which again should be no surprise to the folks on the subcommittee. This will be our more routine fall business, so transfer free cash to the stabilization fund. Consistent with the financial management policies, probably, at least 25% of whatever free cash is certified at, which is really important for our financial stability, important for our bond rating, but also important in particular as COVID era federal grants begin to expire, that we really continue to build up our reserves that we expect we'll have to lean on to an extent as we transition from the COVID kind of financial window to the new normal. Typical amendments, if any, to operating budgets will supplement and amend the capital budget this fall, as is typical for anything that we flagged in the fiscal 24 capital budget back in the spring that we didn't fund. Appropriation of the annual payment for opioid settlement funds. I don't have the exact dollar amount of what that payment this year is, but we will get that. And then a couple of CPA items so normally CPA items are usually prioritized for the spring town meeting, but if there's something time sensitive to do with, roof safety, or if 61A right of first refusal occurs, so suppose a piece of property that is zoned for agricultural or other protected use that's privately owned, it goes on the market, municipal governments only have a finite window of time to act on them. So we might have a couple of things in that area. And then road acceptances. So important, but not the most exciting stuff compared to $150 million building project, but it's our normal fall work. So if anyone has any questions or feedback, that'll be November 13th. Happy to answer them.
Connor, can you remind me, when are we expecting that warrant to be finalized?
With the first draft will be reviewed at the next select board meeting on October 10th. So probably we'll publish it that day.
Fantastic. Thank you.
And for a warrant that small, it'll probably only be reviewed by the board at 2 meetings and be signed and finalized at your second meeting in October, which I think is the 25th, because we didn't want to have it the same night as your other town meeting.
A busy month for sure.
It's yeah. It is.
Any other questions on that, or? All right. If there are no other questions, I think we can move on then to the last item on the agenda, the discussion of the 2025 budget timeline. Fiscal 2025.
Wendy, do you want to take that?
Yes. So let me just share my screen, which I have a different monitor now, so it trying to do a screen share. Let me just try that. Can you see oh, that looks good.
Yep.
Right, projected budget timeline.
Yep, it's small, but we can definitely see it.
It's in the aspect ratio of your screen.
There we go.
That look better?
Hold on.
Yes, it's readable.
I'll try to, it looks really big on my screen. So I apologize if it's still really small. We just did up a projected budget timeline for the fiscal 25 budget. We didn't put anything in here for school department, and I thought it would be a good time to talk about that and when we could put that into the mix. So just to begin with, next month we'll start with issuing preliminary revenue estimates. And then on November 1st, we'll be sending out to the town departments the budget instruction memo for operating and capital budget submissions with a due date of probably around December 8th. Usually we give them about a month to submit that information. And then after that's submitted around like December and January, because you get the holidays in the middle of that, we will schedule interviews with the individual departments, the town administrator, myself, and we kind of go through line by line the preliminary asks by each department. After we do that, in February, usually after the governor's budget comes out, we have somewhat of an idea of what is going to be proposed for state aid. We will take all of that into consideration, and Connor will issue a preliminary budget. And that, I put February 19th or the 26th. I think the 19th is a date that we should shoot for, but the 26th is also a date that would be possible, because this year we issued the preliminary budget on the 27th. So it's still, around the same time as the previous year. Then in March, that would be the time to issue the first budget change memo, because in March we get the GIC rates. We usually get information from Maya on what our renewal percentages are going to be on our insurance policy. So that's usually a time where we can do significant adjustments to the budget. So at some point in March, that's usually around, I think, the middle of March that we get that information. And then also in March, we will send out a memo to the department heads to put together their budget narratives, which will go into the budget book. And then during March and April, there may be additional budget change memos, depending on if anything significant comes up. We get information about like the regional school, another iteration of state budget comes out. We might make an adjustment for that. Any new information that comes to light during that time, we would issue, another budget change memo. Last year, we only issued 2 change memos, but I know there have been other years where we've issued, 4 budget change memos. But, if it's nothing significant, obviously, we're just going to probably wait and group them and try to do as few memos as possible. But it could be, more than 2. And then in April, the town administrator will issue the capital budget memo, because around April, is when we're really getting down to the end of when we're going to balance the budget. And we kind of, once we know where we stand that way, we can really get a handle on what we could make for recommendations for the capital budget. So at that point, Connor would issue the capital budget memo in April. And then really April 19th or the 26th would be the deadline to balance the budget and issue the final change memo to the select board. Those are Friday dates, with the expectation that there would be a meeting on either the Monday, the 22nd, or the 29th, to do the budget hearings. So this past April, they were done like near the end of the end of April, sorry. So that's why I picked those 2 possible dates, but obviously April 29th and May 1st would be the absolute latest, and we would shoot for the 22nd and the 24th to do those hearings. I also know the select board's meeting schedule hasn't been set yet, so perhaps when that's being considered, these dates could be also taken into consideration. And finally, April and May, the budget book. With the budget then being balanced, we can complete the budget book or get it substantially completed. This year it was really close to being done when we put it out there online for town meeting. And then the annual town meeting would be the 20th of May. So, I'd like to just update this to insert some information for the school department. And if you have that information, if you could provide that to me, or if you would like to discuss that tonight, that would be great.
Sure. So we have a timeline by month. I don't actually have it by the date like you do, but it's very close, I think. Starting in early December and also in January, the school principals have. Did you want to add it to this list, or do you want me to send you a separate list? I just interrupted myself. Sorry.
It's okay. If you want to speak to it and then send it to
Okay.
me, I can intersperse it into this
Okay, sure.
and send
So
out the final document to everybody.
Okay, sure. So we have every employee participate in the process because we have those budget targets that we talk about. So in December and January staff meetings, we have the school principals spend 2 of the meetings reviewing the strategic plan in every school, and also soliciting some budget input from the staff in terms of what they need to accomplish the goals in the strategic plan. In February, by February, each principal compiles that information with their leadership team, and then determines the needs in terms of priority for the school and what they want to present to the executive team of the district. That happens in February. Each principal makes a presentation of their needs for the rest of the leadership staff so that we can get that across the board understanding of the ebbs and flows of different needs in different buildings and what the priorities are. The end of February into March, the executive team, which is the central administrative team, prioritizes those needs of the schools into one budget. And then we take into account which of those are based on the strategic needs, which of those are reactive, proactive, and strategic. We then present that back to the principals who in the same month in March, go back to their staff, show them the budget, that proposal that we have comprised, as well as we put the dollar figures on that too, so that we have an idea of what it's going to cost the district. And by April, we're ready to start doing presentations, starting with the school committee. And of course, we then present to the select board, FinCom, and ready for town meeting. So between April and May, we have that all hammered out. Obviously, that's a little bit skewed if we have to work on balancing the budget, but that's the process that we use that gets us to the end of March, beginning of May. It seems to align well with what you have, and we've typically only had issues when we had to sort of go back and value engineer, right? And get the budget down so that we can come to a balanced budget. Can I answer any questions about that timeline?
I have no questions. Wendy, do you feel like you have the information needed to fill in the timeline?
Yes.
I can actually share. Do you want me to share my screen for a second and share that timeline with you?
Sure.
Again, it's not in a list, but I was going to share it, but it wouldn't let us both do it at once. So. Can you see that?
Yes.
Okay. Would you like me to put this in a list and send to you, Wendy, or is this format okay? You just let me know what you need.
I mean, a list would be great.
No problem.
Right. Any other questions or thoughts on that timeline? Guess I'm wondering when we should get this group back together again, given that timeline, and just figure out optimizing when we reconvene around that.
So I think so something we used to do more regularly before COVID and a lot of kind of destabilization in that area is that we would try every year, if not every other year, to have budget subcommittee usually before a preliminary budget is issued in February. So you're looking at maybe like a January meeting. At that point, we have the revenue estimates, preliminary governor's budgets issued, and we would look at community comparison reports or things like that, or financial indicator analysis, like looking at where our certain indicators are as far as our reserve position and things like that. And you could compare it back to honestly, the last ones we did were probably 2020 to see where we're trending, what the challenge areas are. There's a really good benefit here right now that a lot of the kind of financial principles involved have been involved in working together for a very long time. But on the flip side, I don't want to just take for granted or assume that everyone on the budget subcommittee it doesn't find value in doing those reports occasionally. And so I guess I'll put that out to you, Jen, and to the members if that's something you think would be helpful for us to try to pick the ball back up there this winter. Maybe with at least a comparative analysis report as we start to, I think fiscal 25 will be the last, you can correct me if I'm wrong, Wendy, probably the last year with meaningful COVID related aid available.
Right.
And so we're going to be heading into this kind of new position for where we are. By that time, we'll know if this debt exclusion passed or not. So it might be a good kind of time to reset and take a look at where we are against our adopted policies and what our financial positions are before we get into the budget. I think could be helpful for the three committees to contextualize what we're seeing from the departments.
I think that sounds fantastic. I find a lot of value in those comparative analysis kind of data-driven exercises and reviews. So we're looking at potentially January is your suggestion.
Selfishly, yes. Just give us time to if we're going to do it right.
Does anyone else have a strong feeling about meeting earlier than that, or does January feel like an appropriate timeline in terms of what we can accomplish and what we have to look forward to? Jackie?
No, I think that sounds good. I think it's more helpful to have meetings where we can have meaningful discussions where we have numbers in front of us. And obviously this fall is going to be very busy. So I think that sounds right. Thank you.
Any other thoughts? Thank you, Jackie.
It works for us. Connor and I and Wendy and Andrea are in touch regularly anyway. So we tend to kind of share information of things we've heard are coming or how the budget is shaping up. So we pretty much, it's not that we're going to go from now to January before we have a discussion about budget again, but we won't have anything really to talk about.
Wouldn't that be so easy?
Yeah. Yeah.
No, we stay in very, very good communication throughout. So the committee need not worry about that part.
Oh yeah, we know you do. We'll hear it from other places. It's nice to have this group come together with the things they hear, and again, bringing those lenses together and kind of adding our perspective in that way. So that sounds perfect. So I assume we can plan on scheduling everything through email and look forward to probably a January meeting, or should we do that now?
We can do either. Again, being selfish, I would vote now.
Okay.
If folks
It's probably a good idea because our schedules fill up really quickly and
let's do it.
So does this time, like a 5 on a Wednesday, is that viable for this group and the current membership we have? Okay, so maybe, and I think I'm finally getting better at being more sensitive to this of when school vacation week is, so not the 17th, right? So maybe the 24th at 5. Does that work?
Talking about January?
Yes.
Oh,
Am
we
I-
don't have a school vacation in January.
What am I? So I'm not getting.
I don't know, unless it's a
I
town
tried.
project, then
Oh,
we
you know
will
what?
have
I
that.
saw a
Right.
holiday. I saw a Monday holiday, and I
It's
just
Monday,
Martin Luther King Jr., yeah,
So that's Martin Luther King Day, not is it Patriots Day, President's Day?
That's
the February
February.
one.
yeah.
Well, maybe in 2026 I'll get it right.
No, you'll get it right as soon as your daughter's in kindergarten, because
uh,
you'll know when she's home.
That's true. So then I guess 17th or 24th, I would suggest.
The 17th works for us.
Yep, 17th is doable.
Yeah, the 17th works for us. Did you say 5 o'clock?
Yep, that works for me.
Sure.
Wendy, is that fine?
Yeah. No, I was just thinking, if we're gonna get information and meaningful information together, we may need a little bit more time, but,
So yeah,
I'm sure we
Well, we
so
can
for
always
me-
cancel, right? If we don't have
Well-
anything worthy of sharing.
We could. I think we're probably talking a matter of like the difference of a week or two.
yeah, just a week.
Yeah, so I don't know when MMA will be. It's usually the 3rd or 4th Friday in January. That's when the governor usually announces the preliminary budget figures for Chapter 70 and unrestricted aid. So that is going to
Right.
be the 19th or the 26th. So if we slide it to the 24th, we're at least either having passed that, we'll know that, or we're at least much closer to it.
Is that
Go
usually
on.
the Friday of the holiday weekend?
You would think I would know after 12 years, but I don't.
Do we want to consider just going for the 31st then? That way we know it's a safer bet that things will be done and we can,
Sure.
and we don't have to recalibrate timing.
I'm fine with that too.
Yeah,
Okay,
I think that would be good.
perfect. Let's do that then.
And Sean will send an invite to that, Connor, or?
Yes, yep,
Okay.
and he'll be joining future meetings. He just had a previously
Sure.
obliged event. But yes, we'll get that circulated. And
Great.
I've updated our distribution list in the meeting, so we will not miss Andrea or anyone else, and I apologize for that.
Perfect. So just to confirm then, we are rolling with the 31st of January, 2024 at 5 o'clock for the next budget subcommittee meeting. Okay. Unless there are any other questions or comments on the timeline, I believe that's it for our agenda for tonight. Any other closing remarks or? I would
Great
just
job, Chair.
Good job.
I would just like to thank Jackie for her leadership as chair over 2 years, right, Jackie? And Jamie as well for his work as vice chair. So you guys have done a fantastic job of leading the group. So thank you very
Definitely.
much. All right, with that, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Wiseman, so moved. Sorry.
All right, so we're
Second,
ready.
Cabral.
Okay, ready for a roll call vote? So Wiseman,
Yes.
Lamb,
Yes.
Star,
Yes.
Cabral,
Yes.
Reed,
Yes.
and Stacy's a yes. So thank you, everybody. And we'll see y'all out and about before January 31st. We'll see you here for the
See
next
all of
budget
you at
subcommittee. Take care.
Thank you very much. Good night.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.